Okay, today we're going to make a staple in our house. I know most of us grew up with cornbread, and it's a delicious addition to any meal. You can make beans and cornbread, and you have a meal that has lots of protein and lots of good corn taste. Now we have 3 cups of coarse ground cornmeal, and we have a 1/4 cup of salted and peppered AP flour. We just want to give it a little bit of flour, but not a lot. So like everything else, we're going to combine all of our dry ingredients first, and then we're going to go to our wets. So to this, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. And let me check here. Yes, 1 each. 1 tablespoon baking powder, pardon me, back up, 1 teaspoon baking powder and 1 teaspoon baking soda. We're going to add 1½ teaspoons of salt. This is granulated table salt, or you can actually use really small ground sea salt. And we're using, for this recipe, we're using 1/2 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. So we're going to whisk these things together, and then we're going to get our wet ingredients ready. I'm just working in a medium-large bowl. This is all you'll need to combine everything. Get it to where you don't see any white of the flour or any of the big lumps of baking powder or baking soda. So just like when we were making biscuits, we'll make a little well here. And to this, we're going to do our wet ingredients. Now, before we do this, let me mention that we have a preheated oven to 425 degrees. So we're going to let this sit for a minute, but we do want to have prepped out 2 small cast iron skillets or 1 large one. This one I'm just going to do in 2 because that way I can send some home with everybody else in a beautiful cast iron, as long as they bring it back. To those, before I put them in, I'm going to add just a little bit. You can use vegetable oil. In this case, I'm going to use a little bit of our bacon drippings because I like the flavor that that's going to impart. And we're just going to put these in the oven and let this get really hot. The key to this cornbread is scalding hot cast iron. So when we pour it in, you get a nice crust on the bottom. So I'm going to put these in the oven. Okay, so I've put those 2 cast iron skillets in the oven with just a little bit of bacon drippings. Now, like I said, you can use vegetable oil if you want, or Crisco. Entirely up to you, but bacon drippings are going to give it that beautiful, yummy flavor. So we're going to take 2 eggs, and we're going to beat them. Bad eggs. I don't know. That's probably not politically correct anymore, is it? Okay, but we're going to get those eggs in there. Then we're going to take 3 cups of buttermilk. I use buttermilk because it has that tang, it has that little extra fat, even though this is a low-fat buttermilk. And if you don't have buttermilk, you can use regular whole milk and maybe just add a little bit extra melted butter to this. The melted butter is coming. Okay, so we're going to pour this in, get out all of our buttermilk. Okay, so we have our beaten eggs and we have our 3 cups of buttermilk in here. Now we're going to add 10 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter. That's a stick and then 2 more tablespoons. And we're going to start to combine this. And you can use a whisk at the beginning and then move on into a wooden spoon. But you do want to be careful to get everything mixed together. But we don't want to overwork this. You don't want this to be tough. And the key to cooking is patience and don't overwork. You just want all of the cornbread to be incorporated, and you want it to look like this. So it looks like a really almost cake batter consistency. Now to this, you could add chopped bacon that's already been cooked. You can add jalapenos. You can add kernels of corn, which is really yummy. You can add anything. This is a blank slate. So all we have right now is just cornbread that's going to be cooked in our bacon drippings. I'm going to let this sit for about 10 minutes, and by then my cast iron should be screaming hot. Okay, so we have waited 10 minutes, and it's important to wait 10 minutes before you pour this to allow the salts and that really dry cornmeal to become hydrated or to become wet. If you pour it right away, you'll still have cornbread, but it won't have the same taste, and it will be probably a little dry. If you've ever had dry, crumbly cornbread, chances are it didn't get hydrated. So I'm going to take my 2 cast iron skillets out of the oven, and I'm going to swirl around the fat inside of it. So I'm going to leave you for just a second. Now these are really hot. We're on a 425-degree oven. And as you see, we have smoke. Well, just, honey, dinner's ready. Turn on the smoke detectors. So we want to, as you can see here, we have some in the bottom, and I've swirled it around the sides. The reason we want that to be that hot is so that, and please be careful here. Remember, your grandmother did it, so I think you can do it, but use a little caution. Is we want to pour half of this mix in here, hear it frying. And then we're going to do the other one. We're going to put this guy back in the oven. My timer says it's time to get the other one. Thank you, Siri. Okay, so on this one, again, we're going to swirl this around the edges because it's going to come up on that edge. Be very careful. Don't get this near any water. We don't want water splattering on this. This is not a recipe the kids can help with, except the stirring. They can do that. Now, as you can see, these bubbles will start to come up along that edge. That's going to be a really crispy crust. So we're going to put him up. We're going to put this guy in, and both of these are going to cook for about 25 minutes at 425 degrees. So we have our cornbreads out of the oven, and we've let them rest for about 10 minutes and cool down. Let it kind of solidify a little bit. The cornbread is golden brown on top, and it's not mushy or wiggly on the inside. At our house, we have a rule that if you see a towel or a hot pad or anything across something, that is hot. So on this cornbread, we're going to just cut it like a pie. Now you can make this in muffins, you can do whatever, you just have to adjust the cooking time. But we're just going to cut this in slices in a pie. So we're going to take this one, put it right underneath here, and she is ready to eat. You can cut that in half, put butter on it, you can put honey on it, you can put black beans and rice. Anything and everything tastes great on cornbread. If indeed you want to use cornbread as a breakfast cereal even, my grandfather used to take this cooled and mix it with milk and sugar. It's really quite good. So that is our black pepper cornbread, and we'll see you next time with some more delicious eats.